and welcome to Being Inspired Online, presented by Buxton Spoken Words. This is the digital version of our Buxton Fringe Festival event, which we should have been holding in person at the Green Man Gallery in Buxton. However, as we all know, events have conspired against us, so we hope you enjoy this video instead. The theme is Being Inspired. We have asked our poets to present some of their original work and choose other work that has inspired their writing. This video will be available for streaming or download throughout the period of the Fringe Festival, the 1st to the 19th of July, so you don't have to watch it all in one go. Please bear in mind that this might not be the most professional video you've ever seen, but that the poetry in it is very, very good. My name is Don Dolby. Hope you enjoy our performances. I'd like to start with a poem that I've written specially for this event. It's called Words. Words are my canvas, words are my brushes, words are my paints, words are my knife, words are my easel. But words float off in the air as soon as they are spoken. Words float into others' minds, words that are spoken. Create an image, a painting in the air, a feeling, a spark, a memory, an emotion. These words that are spoken. Words are our medium. Words are our tools. Words create magic. Words portray our innermost thoughts. Enjoy our words today, varied and heartfelt, funny, dramatic and descriptive. Words of all shapes and sizes. Our spoken words.
Hello everybody, my name's Karl Largan. The theme that we're exploring through spoken word is being inspired. I have a wealth of people who have inspired me, heroes, heroines and people who have generally piqued my interest. I'll be reading a poem about a handful of people and one seaside town that has inspired me, if only to write this incongruous love story. The first person is poet Dame Edith Sitwell, fascinating character whose book I thoroughly enjoyed. She wrote, "Poetry ennobles the heart and the eyes and unveils the meaning of all things, upon which the heart and the eyes dwell. It discovers the secret rays of the universe and restores us to forgotten paradises." Second person is the actor and director Karl Largan. You may remember him from such roles as Captain Bligh, Henry VIII and The Hunchback of Notre Dame. He said, "I have a face like the behind of an elephant's," but he also said, "They can't censor the gleam in my eye." The third person is the so-called godmother of punk, Patti Smith. She wrote, "For life is the best thing we have in this existence, and if we should desire to believe in something, it should be a beacon within. This beacon being the sun, sea and sky, our children, our work, our companions, and most simply, the embodiment of love." And final person in this quadriangle of love is John Lydon, whose words still resonate today with chilling fearfulness. "I am an antichrist, I am an anarchist, don't know what I want, but I know how to get it. I want to destroy the passerby." The place of inspiration is an unnamed town, an unnamed seaside town, and it's a stick of rock for anyone who can guess where it is. It is the birthplace of the first two characters and the place I was lucky enough to see the other two characters on separate occasions in concert. This is The Sea of Possibilities with Dame Edith Sitwell and Karl Largan, as played by Patti Smith and John Lydon. The donkeys were trekking down the valley road, staring eyes down, shifting to work. The captain and the dame stopped to watch from the promenade. They stood arm in arm, uncomfortable in the burgeoning sun. Noticing the names etched into dusty fur, the captain read them out, aloud, his lips plump with disdain. Parsley, sage, rosemary, thyme, harumph. The dame smiled inwardly at their long faces and dirty teeth. They took tea on the grand balcony. She extricated sugar from the silver bowl with silver tongs and sipped her infusion from bone china, finger-cocked. He picked and gnawed at a chicken wing and wiped his mouth on his sleeve. The seagulls squawked and circled and as she steered him away through their screeching eddies. To the castle, she eased, keen to stand upon the promontory. He paused between a lattice-windowed cafe. I used to work there when I was 17, he said. Ha! Her sharp mock stopped his clock of time when round the corner he found himself in the alley where many moons in puddles ago the older waitress had kissed him in the rain. He said nothing, just let the memory rinse through him, turned his bicorn sideways, emphasised his sea swagger and set a pace toward the headlands. Upon the grass-tufted top, the breeze blew steeper, buffeting each to one another. Through his spyglass they scoured both bays, the white-laced houses coming in from all directions, the dappled sparkles that skimmed from ring fingers and sugared surf. They watched a Victorian dog skip noisily between lighthouse and keeper, a sound delay in the air. The dame sniffed saltily and tried to measure an acre or more from the sea strand to the salt water. The captain wiped his brow with a white handkerchief and cleared his sinuses. Later, spurred on by a tour of the rotunda, they went in search of dinosaur prints. The tide was turning and they were obliged from overflowing rock pools towards the abandoned beach huts, paint peeled from fading days. Absorbed, they photographed each other, draped over rust-coloured rails. The clouds fell past and he fumbled with an unfamiliar shutter and frozen shoulder. Horseshit, he whined, and click, he captured her scowl. In the brooding afternoon light, he commandeered a rowing boat. The captain guided the dame aboard as the water sloshed at his boots. He waded and launched, then rowed in ungainly fashion. His back hunched, he toed and froed as the sea tossed into their matted hair. To the wetwood knock and creak of oar and rowlocks, they clung to the coastline until, here, she indicated with the crook of her finger, the snug inlet, and with her black skirts hitched high, they ploughed to the shore. Leaving the boat untethered, they trampled up and around the cliff path. They scanned a lonely church with a ship's bell in its tower. Ha! They huffed in unison. Then hand in hand they traced through tilled fields littered with flint, clambered back down a crumbling path, scratched and snagged by gauze and thorn. Once down on their exiled beach, they looked back across the bay. They combed the stones of scraps of chalk lay like unwritten notes, found the weathered wreck of a ship stuck fast in the sand. Breathing deep of briny air, they packed their days trunk full, kissed in the wind, and it mattered not that they found no footprints. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Billen and I'm an occasional member of Buxton Spoken Word. For this year's Buxton Festival Fringe, we were asked to have a think about poems that inspired us, and I came up with Suicide in the Trenches by Siegfried Sassoon, which I'd like to read now. Suicide in the Trenches. I knew a simple soldier boy who grinned at life in empty joy, slept soundly in the lonesome dark, and whistled early with the lark. In winter trenches, cowed and glum, with crumps and lice and lack of rum. He put a bullet through his brain. No one spoke of him again. You smug-faced crowd with kindling eye, who cheer when soldier lads march by, sneak home and pray you'll never know the hell where youth and laughter go. And what I've done in a poem that I've now made up is taken the last line of that poem and created from it a new poem about today's youth. Obviously a very different, but still difficult in some ways, scenario. 3 generations on. The hell where youth and laughter go was once a battlefield of woe. Today's much plainer times find youngsters trudging through the gloom of unpaid debt in a rented room. A no man's land of love turned sour, biological clocks ticking hour by hour. They're wounded now by vicious tweets, by Facebook boasts of marvellous feats, their stressed out thoughts an endless spiral, neuroticism, COVID viral, bayoneted by the banks, working hard for little thanks. They bunker down at night and pray to have a future, have their say. Hello, this is Sonnet 29 by William Shakespeare, and it was read at my brother's wedding, so it has a personal significance for me. When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me like to one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy contented least. Yet in these thoughts, myself almost despising, haply I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising from sullen earth, sings hymns at heaven's gate, for thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings. I've now dared to try and update this poem for the modern neurotic age. It's still a sonnet. When tired of life and torrid Twitter trolls, I eat too much and curse my friendless state, and Facebook lost contacts with my aching soul, and gloom about myself what I just ate, wishing that I look less like my fat mum, skinny like Claire, like Jade with lots of mates, envying this girl's clothes and that girl's bum, with even Towie not much fun to slate. Yet in this mood, crying all night in bed, message, it comes from you, and then my smile, like 100 likes springing from a dead post, has me almost dancing up the aisle, for your sweet face trumps all my Facebook woes. If you love me, the rest is just a pose.
Hello, I'm Gordon MacLellan, better known as Creeping Toad, one of the Buxton poets. Rather than sitting here talking at a camera, I thought I'd send my poems for this evening's performance in as slideshows. So here is The Bears. There are cracks in the pavement where the bears live, feeding on the careless words we drop between one step and the next. There are keyholes in cupboards where the bears watch, dark bright eyes peering out between one spoken word and the next. There are gaps in our lives where the bears wait, poised to strike all in a moment between one thought and the next. The bears are there, hairy and trembling and angry, all fear and excitement and claws between one moment and the next. Press a hand to the slab. Put an eye to the keyhole. Do you feel the passion, a life beat trembling? Do you feel the passion, waiting for the pavements of my heart to crack? Hello, Gordon MacLellan here again. This poem is called Another Kind of Loving. Hands sinking, more mud than earth, handfuls, hands full, dripping on my knees in old furrows, wrapped in this field's flesh, under the arms of a field-edge poplar, black-barked and bristling, all lumps and muscle. Too claggy for ploughs, too solid for spades, too wet for earth, mud-painted me, an earth skin, tattooed with tracks and slots, rising like the field awoken, hair a mare's nest of twigs and dreams, arms growing branches, holding antlers turning. Feeling water beneath my feet, mud between my toes, oozing, grit, sand on cold skin, wet cold, earth cold, deep bone cold, heart stopping cold. And the overwhelming feeling is joy.
This one's called 20 Ways to Run a Poem. It's best to sneak up on the reader, change the meter, change the rhyme, change the tone, or change the subject. Try to do something unexpected, like confessing a crime or a secret perversion, even in a short poem. This one's called Standard Disclaimer. Please be advised that all characters appearing in this work are fictional. Any similarity to real people alive or dead, even you, is purely coincidental. The author wishes to assure the reader that he gives you nary a thought since his last work was released to the general public. In fact, the author never thinks of you, except when he smells someone wearing your perfume. He did think he heard you last week when he bumped into someone with the exact same laugh, but that's just the mind playing tricks on itself and has no real significance. The author wishes to assure his audience that he has abandoned the use of muses and relies on his own imagination for all the intrigue, conquest, and psychopathic machinations that appear in his stories, poems, and songs. He would appreciate your trust and confidence on this matter, and sincerely apologizes for any embarrassment or inconvenience he may have caused. This is called Unnaturally Out of Place. I could never be a poet of nature and place. I have no literary skills to describe how the ground gives way underfoot as you walk onto a bog unawares. I don't notice the coal tits, kestrels, grouse, pheasants, or even curlews with their curling call. I know neither the names nor topographical features of Kinder Scout with its downfall, Mam Tor, Eccles Pike, or Warneth Low. I see a squirrel or two, but I never notice a shrew, fox, badger, or hare. I guess I now recognize Himalayan balsam, and it's imperative to know the dangerous giant hogweed, but I know nothing about bell heather, birchfoot, trefoil, black bryony, or bog bean. I'm not sure how people learn so many trivial details about their surroundings. As I walk through dells, pikes, and moors, I'm usually too lost in thought or distracted by unanchored anxiety to learn insignificant facts about my nondescript environs. This one is called Dance Ruse, and it's by William Carlos Williams, one of my favorite poets. If I, when my wife is sleeping, and the baby and Kathleen are sleeping, and the sun is a flame-white disk in silken mist above shining trees, if I in my north room dance naked grotesquely before my mirror, waving my shirt round my head and singing softly to myself, I am lonely, lonely. I was born to be lonely. I am best so. If I admire my arms, my face, my shoulders, flanks, buttocks against the yellow-drawn shades, who shall say I'm not the happy genius of my household? This is a poem called Schadenfreude. It's by a poet named Stephanie Brown. 12 a.m. If this were a movie, the sound of sizzling would foretell disaster, because you're walking out of the room leaving something cooking, because you have too many burners going. There should be the sound of trumpets, thin and mournful. You're going to walk into your murder. It begins to smoke. All the same, I'm humming. The attacker hides behind the door. I'm whistling a happy face. Minutes before you start shrieking again and again, before the plaster falls down around you, before the strangulation begins, folding up clothes and putting them into drawers, your back turned, while the skillet in close-up keeps sizzling. Minutes before the shrieking and choking, the cupboards become lit. Watch the doll's mouth melt. This audience won't pity you. Like big round workers who don't get pity when they step on the bus in the morning and make the bus sag momentarily. Like wizened up bodies holding canes, head bowed under golf hats on their ways downtown. This audience will laugh. The way your eyes bulge out and your tongue is unhinged, how you return to find a kitchen filled with smoke when we all know it's your gluttony that's caused it. It's the way you locked your lies up in a closet that's led me to hate you. So when your doom comes, a knife thuds into your back, let's say, or an arrow is shot into your ribs, or a razor is pulled across your face, or you trip on a roller skate near the open cellar stairs, or you walk into a sliding glass door, or you're hung from the shower curtain rod in a plastic white shower, or you're stabbed with pinking shears, or demoralized with an axe handle, or beaten down the spine with a rake, or forced to swallow some golf balls, or sliced at the waist and the wounds salted, or if you merely carpet burned your arm on the carpet, it will feel great to watch you get it, or at least see you experience some slight future discomfort, chagrin, embarrassment.
Hello, my name's Alison Morton. I first fell in love with poetry when I was aged 11. I was attending a military school in the Middle East, and our very enthusiastic teacher, who was called Mr. Hunter, encouraged us to learn and recite pieces of poetry. This piece was the first one I ever read, and bear in mind that at the time I read it, the temperature outside was somewhere north of 40 degrees centigrade. This is The Ice Cart by Wilfred Wilson Gibson. Perched on my city office stool, I watched with envy while a cool and lucky carter handled ice. And I was wandering in a trice, far from the grey and grimy heat of that intolerable street, or sapphire berg and emerald flow beneath the still cold ruby glow of everlasting polar night, bewildered by the queer half-light, until I stumbled unawares upon a creek where big white bears plunged headlong down with flourished heels and floundered after shining seals. Through shivering seas of blinding blue, and as I watched them, ere I knew I'd stripped, and I was swimming too, among the seal pack, young and hale, and thrusting on with threshing tail, with twist and twirl and sudden leap, through crackling ice and salty deep, diving and doubling with my kind, until at last we left behind those big white blundering bulks of death, and lay at length with panting breath upon a far untravelled floe beneath a gentle drift of snow. Snow drifting gently, out, fine and white, out of the endless polar night, falling and falling evermore upon that far untravelled shore, till I was buried fathoms deep beneath that cold white drifting sleep. Sleep, drifting deep, deep, drifting sleep. The carter cracked a sudden whip. I clutched my stool with startled grip, awakening to the grimy heat of that intolerable street. This poem is by Rudyard Kipling. I like it because it was one of the earlier ones that I memorised, and I've always recited it to myself when I go through the woods. It's called The Way Through the Woods. They shut the road through the woods, 70 years ago. Weather and rain have undone it again, and now you would never know there was once a road through the woods, before they planted the trees. It is underneath the coppice and heath, and the thin anemones. Only the keeper sees that where the ringdove broods and the badgers roll at ease, there was once a road through the woods. But if you enter the woods of a summer evening late, when the night air cools on the trout-ringed pools and the otter whistles his mate, they fear not men in the woods because they see so few. You'll hear the beat of a horse's feet and the swish of a skirt in the dew, steadily cantering through the misty solitudes, as though they perfectly knew the old lost road through the woods. But there is no road through the woods. Hello, my name's Alison Morton. This poem is the first one of my own work that I'm going to read to you. I wrote it shortly after David Bowie died in 2016. My first husband, who died in 1988, was a great David Bowie fan, and I wrote this for both of them. The Starman is gone, ashes to ashes, funk to funky. The stars look very different. I don't know if Major Tom's a junkie. Some pour scorn on my musical taste. They think it's naive, they think it's a waste. Well, just listen to me. Listen, and I'll tell you why the Starman is still up in the sky, why 5 years are still stuck on my eyes, and Ziggy Stardust is still alive. The Jean Genie lived on his back, completely outrageous with his chimney stacks, was a backdrop to a love affair, sweetly breathless, so faintly there, just beginning, hopeful and afraid, a future full of promises, promises made. Ziggy and the Spiders, glamour rock, what a shock when he broke up the band, but we, hand in hand, passionate nights, embarked on marriage, the future in our sights, singing along all the songs, a lad insane, what could go wrong? The young Americans, all the young dudes, the thin white Duke was never rude, Major Tom and the China girl danced in the streets across the world, while here, at home, we fell apart. Illness broke him and broke my heart. There were no heroes, not even for one day, just two sad people who couldn't find the way. The mother spider in her web of glass, suffragettes and God-given ass, had no power, no strength, no way to see where we should go. So I lost me. And where are we now? Those two sad souls whose hearts fell into a big black hole. With the pretty things, we're in the past. The changes came and nothing lasts. The moon age daydream ended too soon. The monsters were too scary and we couldn't find the tunes. So he went to explore the stars and the moon and left me behind. It was all too soon. The me I lost is still inside, found a place in the dark to run and hide. But the music can bring her out into the light just now and then when the sparks ignite. When Suffragette City collides with the fashion, the memory stirs of a long-gone passion. And the Starman is gone, way up in the sky. And I remember my love, and I can't help but cry. It's sometimes hard to remember your face. Are you in heaven now? Is heaven a place? Is it all hunky-dory where you are now, and is Mickey Mouse grown into a cow? I've lived without you for so many years. This modern love doesn't hold many tears. But just now and then, when I get the chance, I'll think of you and whisper, let's dance. Hello. Those who know me know that from time to time I write poems that are quite political. This one is very recent and very topical. Its title is simply George Floyd, Minnesota, 2020. Many, many lives ago. How many lives? I don't know. Our granddaughter's ancestors walked in the sun and lived out their lives with each day's work done. African villages, African heat, dusty ground beneath African feet, families raised under clear blue skies, far away from white men's eyes. Then the white man came, with guns and whips, loaded thousands onto creaking ships, carried them over the rolling seas, chained and beaten to their knees. Worked them and beat them and worked them again, tea and cotton and sugar cane, families working in Caribbean heat, dusty ground under black slaves' feet. The same sun beating from clear blue skies, black people forced into slavish lives, because white men believed they had the right to own other people just because they weren't white, the right to make money, to live lives of ease on the backs of black people enslaved on their knees. Slaves forced to work endless year after year, freedom a word they forgot how to hear. No memories left of African roots, generations enslaved under white men's boots. Broke down shacks and threadbare clothes, singing African songs while they wielded their hoes. Dance to remember, drink to forget. 200 years and not ended yet. Black families were freed, but no jobs and no homes, no hope and no food, condemned to roam. A war to end the slavish trade, Yankee dreaming, fortunes made, while black men, they still clean the streets, the homes of dirt from white men's feet. Cleaners, street sweepers, work while you sleepers, and singers, musicians, professors, clinicians, even the potus with his first lady, shining a bright light on lives that were shady. Then the orange man came to plaster his name across buildings and billboards, placating the gun hordes of white men who dreamed of their superiority over black men they'd forced into inferiority. The promise to make America great once again, spreading hatred and fear, division and pain. And our granddaughters, 3 black beauties so tall, African roots, Americans all, Yankee girls from New York State, baseball, school proms, facing racism and hate. My Minnesotan friend, in tears, as the city of his growing years lies in tatters, trashed and burned to ash, while white men sit back and rake in the cash. I can't breathe, the black man cried. Please, I can't breathe. And the black man died because of a white man kneeling down, pressing a black man's neck to the ground. I can't breathe, the black man cried. Please, I can't breathe. And George Floyd died.
In 2019, there were many exhibitions to commemorate the death of Leonardo da Vinci 500 years before, on the 21st of May. I was fortunate to see an exhibition of his drawings and writings at the museum in Birmingham. He was an incredible man, and his work stretched way beyond his painting. This led me to write the Leonardo 500, a word for every year since his death. Leonardo, more than a Renaissance man. Artist, yes, but. Sculptor, yes, but. Musician, yes, but. Anatomist, yes, but. Cartographer, yes, but. Scientist, yes, but. Engineer, yes, but. Inventor, yes, but. No boundaries, no demarcations, with holistic views of arts and science. Leonardo, the ultimate polymath. But why and how? Illegitimacy prevented shackles of notary, apprenticeship promoted practical stance, self-learning forged empirical approaches, gracious but reserved, fastidious in personal care, generous to others, relentlessly curious, never satisfied with norms, a blueprint for greatness, foundations of genius, a fusion of art and science, painter, premier guide in observational knowledge, through pictorial depiction of form and structure, drawing chief instrument in his didactic method, text's subservient role to explain pictures. Questions led to questions, led to questions, led to questions, leaping from subject to subject, notes taken, sketches made, backwards, forwards, both hands at once, pragmatically ambidextrous, so ink not smudged, myriads of pages, each a work of art, each a work of science. Always scientifically methodical, observation, hypothesis, experiment, cross-examination, endless search for truth and understanding, over and over again, often never finished, process more important than product, journey more important than destination. The ultimate empiricist of visual observation. And what can be seen? Behind each brushstroke of each painting, science. Optics and geometry in Suffumato, cadaver dissections in Chirasuro, light propagation in perspective, and more. Assemblies of components in each engineering design, roller bearings, spiral gears, levers, cogs, tool making, vertical drill, hydraulic saw, helicopters, gliders, parachutes, canal locks, revolving stages, cranes, traffic control, and more. A world of endless exploration, aerodynamics, ballistics, measurement technology, military engineering, autopsy, embalming, geochronology, physics of light, mechanics, and more. All within his remit, all within his capability, all within his vision. Thirst for knowledge, interest in everyday objects, fascination of things and how they worked, motivation to go beyond the obvious, a man before his time, society not ready for his designs, no social needs, no available resource. But what of now? Heart of Leonardo caused paradigm shift for cardiac surgeon Wells. Pianist Zubritsky built Leonardo's viola organista, fusing two musical families. Surgeon Coffey confirmed Leonardo's observation that mesentery is a single organ. For Lenting, Leonardo's questions remain relevant to his research lab studies flight. A quartet from many. Leonardo once wrote, "There are three classes of people, those who see when they are shown, those who do not see when they are shown." Leonardo knew how to see. Eyes his main avenue to knowledge. He made knowledge visible to all. But will we see or care to see? We should heed what he said. Wisdom is the daughter of experience. In rivers, the water you touch is the last of what has passed and the first of that which comes. So with present time. This is the Leonardo 500. A word, no more, no less, to commemorate each year since the great man's death. May his vision, his example, his journey never be forgotten. Simply timeless inspiration for us all. The world moves on, and so from Leonardo in 2019 we come to COVID-19 in 2020. Today, Anne and I have been isolated for 100 days. This pandemic is a warning bell for humanity. I wrote Couplet 19 with this in mind. It got a first place recently in a poetry contest about quarantine. 2 meters apart is where we start, then self-isolate before it's too late. Wash your hands, else virus expands. Use PPE, helps safety. Society's shut, we all stay put. Food shops empty, used to be plenty. No supermarket trawl, just internet haul. But what of the old, whose lives now unfold? There's no face-to-face, no virtual place. We laugh, we sing, we joke, keep spirits up for us folk. Videos to see, WhatsApp glee. Woman sneeze, toddler flees. Toilet roll, not cash stole. Human environmental attack. Pandemic weapon, nature fights back. World at war like never before. So many go that extra mile. Never happened for such a long while. Good things can come out of so much pain. Self-censored actions, we all must refrain. Once over, it's time to rethink, as humanity steps back from the brink. Wake-up call for us all. Our good friend John died recently. Because of lockdown, we and many others were unable to attend his funeral to remember and celebrate his life. His wife, Chris, shared with us the order of service, and so we were able to pay our respects, albeit from afar. The service included Last Journey by Timothy Coote. Last Journey by Timothy Coote. There is a train at the station with a seat reserved just for me. I'm excited about its destination, as I've heard it sets you free. The trials and tribulations, the pain and stress we breathe, don't exist where I am going, only happiness, I believe. I hope that you will be there to wish me on my way. It's not a journey you can join in, it's not your time today. There'll be many destinations, some are happy, some are sad, each one a brief reminder of the great times that we've had. Many friends I know are waiting who took an earlier train to greet and reassure me that nothing has really changed. We'll take the time together to catch up on the past, to build a new beginning, one that will always last. One day you'll take your journey on the train just like me, and I promise that I'll be there at the station, and you will see that life is just a journey, enriched by those you meet. No one can take that from you, it's always yours to keep. But now, as no seat is vacant, you will have to muddle through. Make sure you fulfill your ambitions, as you know I'll be watching you. And if there's an occasion to mention who you knew, speak kindly of that person, as one day it will be you. Some time ago we had lunch at the Clink restaurant at HM Prison Style, which is a closed category prison for female adults and young offenders. These restaurants are designed to break the cycle of crime by empowering prisoners with self-belief, workplace skills, and nationally recognised qualifications. Poetry has been written by some of the prisoners training at the restaurants and is displayed there. This is Look to the Future by Jules. Look to the Future by Jules. Look to the future, don't feel alone, advancing forward, destination unknown. Out with the old and in with the new, migrate to the future, no longer be blue. Look to the future, destinations are vast. Take good things from a dark past. Embrace ambitions, make these dreams real. Picture the future, how good does it feel? Look to the future, moving ahead, a life full of sunshine, no longer of dread. treasuring good times, holding them near, good visions of the future, no longer no fear. Look to the future, my new life of fun. I know I could do it, I feel I've won. Dull, dreary, dark or black, a mirage of the future, no longer of flack. A new life I have, only good things of my past, clutching on, ensuring it will last. I'm off that Ferris wheel of the past. I have a new life. I'm having a blast.
Hello, my name is Don Dolby. I'd like to do a couple of poems that I've written recently over the last few weeks for you to start with. The first one's called Silent Stranger. There was no warning, there was no sound when first this silent stranger came to town. There are no barriers, there are no walls against which this silent stranger stalls. There is fear and there is fright when facing this silent stranger's might. There are heroines now and heroes too. The silent stranger knows not what to do. We will be patient, we will be strong, and beat the silent stranger before too long. Second one is called Chains. These chains, these infernal, invisible chains, binding round our heart, binding us together, binding us apart. These chains, these fragile chains of love, of hope and trust, fragile chains indeed, trust in them we must. This infinite useless fury surging deep inside, this helpless longing, this dead-end road of futures now denied. This hope, this delicate wind-torn hope, gives us fortitude to dare. Distant vanishing horizon, hope for us to share. These chains, someday we'll shake these chains, cast them all aside. Love will break free from hearts imprisoned deep inside. Last year, on the Buxton Fringe, we had the pleasure of performing Shelley's The Mask of Anarchy in commemoration for the 200th anniversary of the Peterloo Massacre in Manchester. A few months after that, I visited the Peterloo exhibition at the People's History Museum, and after that visit I wrote this poem called Peterloo Revisited. Today I went to Peterloo, and I saw the echoes and the ghosts of the women and the men, and of the children too. I heard the whisper of their pain, and I saw the hopes, and I saw them dashed, and I saw it happen again and again and again. I've seen the echoes down the years. I've seen protest crushed, and progress halted, turned back, regressed, amid the blood and the sweat and the tears. Today I went to Peterloo, and I went to Tolpuddle, I went to Saltley Gate, I went to Orgreave, and I went to Wapping too. I saw the agents of the state attacking workers again and again, in the only way they knew, with sabres and guns and rope and fear, with regressive lawmaking too. I saw the bravery and I felt their pain when it happened again and again. But I came away with hope renewed, inspired to struggle on, prepared for battles anew on the day I went to Peterloo.
A poem I read many, many years ago, which I like to think has inspired my writing, and I've aspired to write in a similar vein on certain occasions, was a poem by Stevie Smith called Not Waving But Drowning. So I'd like to do that for you today. Not waving but drowning. Nobody heard him, the dead man, but still he lay moaning. I was much farther out than you thought, and not waving but drowning. Poor chap, he always loved larking, and now he's dead. It must have been too cold for him. His heart gave way, they said. Oh, no, 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 it was too cold always. Still the dead one lay moaning. I was much too far out all my life, and not waving but drowning. Another poet I've always admired, and there are many of her poems which I could have read today. Her name is Christina Rossetti. She was writing in the 19th century, so much older than poet than many I listen to or read. This one is called From Sonnets of Later Life. A dream there is wherein we are fain to scream, while struggling with ourselves we cannot speak. And much of all our waking life, as weak and misconceived, eludes us like the dream. For half-life's screamings are not what they seem, and vain the laughs we laugh, the shrieks we shriek, yea, all is vain that mars the settled, meek, contented quiet of our daily theme. When I was young I deemed that sweets are sweet, but now I deem some searching bitters are sweeter than sweets, and more refreshing far, and to be relished more, and more desired, and more to be pursued on eager feet, on feet untired, and still on feet though tired. And now I have a little bonus for you. My granddaughter, who loves frogs, wanted to read this poem for you. So here it is, Chloe Dolby.
Frog Hop by John Agard. I may be ugly, but I have my hop. I have no wish to be kissed and turned into a prince and mince along in awkward finery. Me, abandon my kingdom of wet and weed and insect feast. Oh, keep your kissed. Oh, keep your prince. Dressed like a fop, I'll keep my hop.
I'm David Mountain and suffered from mental health problems for over 40 years. My first admission to a psychiatric hospital was a result of taking recreational drugs, which at the time I considered harmless. It has now been proven beyond doubt that substances such as, and in particular, high THC cannabis, can cause a genetic change in the DNA, resulting in conditions such as schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, and bipolar. Statistics from the NHS and Royal College of Psychiatrists fully support this. I was originally diagnosed as schizophrenic, and then after 8 years, re-diagnosed as bipolar, a massive turning point. I have recently spent 9 months compiling a presentation on the subject in conjunction with a large lottery-funded charity in Stoke, which Staffordshire Police agreed to promote before they pulled out, which was frustrating and disappointing for myself. The issue of recreational drugs and their connections to mental health problems remain a big problem, and my only wish is that others do not needlessly damage themselves. If anybody listening to this can see the potential of the idea or knows of anyone who may, a copy of the presentation can be made available. I have no interest in kudos or payment. The presentation itself can be tailored to suit. They came and took me away. It was an unexpected party. I was the main guest. I came in bright-eyed, cheery. They made me get undressed. Before me, there were bright lights, a cacophony in my ears. I thought I was the chosen one, called back through all these years. They dressed me in pyjamas. They plied me with their meds. They took me to a dormitory and showed me to my bed. Oh, so young and all alone, a victim of excess. I'd really done it this time, was in such an awful mess. One flew over the cuckoo's nest, had made its mark on me. I had to flee that awful place and gain my liberty. Regardless my pyjamas, I managed to escape, to tell my mum and dad about my dreadful fate. They gave me reassurance that things would be just fine. And just when things were feeling good, the ambulance arrived. Confined, I had a goal, a plan, but my efforts were in vain, as I was returned to captivity time and time again. Authorities' patience had grown thin. They stripped me to the skin and locked me in a tiny cell to face a living hell. Until eventually they decided I ticked the boxes was the norm, boxed up my belongings and packed me back off home. Diagnosed and discharged, deserted and betrayed, everything was different and could never be replayed. The following poem related to mental health barriers is pretty much self-explanatory. It is particularly relevant at the moment as people without mental health conditions are also being subjected to barriers of many different kinds, which is seriously impacting on their daily lives and routines, giving an added amount of insight into the piece. I scream and wail at the unrelenting walls, but they don't flinch, don't give an inch, are still there when I stop. Walls of stone or steel or brick, walls a million miles thick, walls I built from the debris of my mind, impenetrable barriers of a different kind. As we continue to deplete the resources of our planet, we need to seriously consider what we do next. The following poem takes a view on this issue. The message being, we just can't carry on as we are. An orange planet. An orange planet, stem suspended in a foliar universe. Its rough pitted surface hanging in a citron atmosphere. Flavour bursts, sweet and sharp, cracking in the air. Precious commodities such as nutrients and the ascorbic are found there. Starbursts of activity fizz within the extremities of its surround, and the peeling of its pithy skin makes the only sound. The harvesting of the planets, another step for man. The raping of the galaxy to put it in a can. Interplanetary exploration, new technologies, a new link. The raping of the universe, a new concept. Now that really makes you think. Taking the wish that all creatures should be happy and free from suffering, peace is the answer, and it is peace we should aspire to. The spirit of the dove. A beautiful daydream drifting in the clouds. A moment's blessing is in your spirit found. A soul relit beneath the heavens' glow. A time of enlightenment shines on those below. Murmured prayers are answered by a voice from far above. Cupped hands open to release the reborn spirit of the dove. The only poet that truly inspires me is John Cooper Clarke. He is unique. Others have tried to adopt his style but a pale imitation. A man of immense poetic knowledge, he does not try to be anything other than he is, or conform to the norm. He is the only poet I know of that can fill large venues. I was lucky enough to see him at Buxton Opera House with my friend Mark. It was fantastic, even though John is not in the best of health nowadays. Up in the gallery with my mate Mark, when onto the stage shuffled John Cooper Clarke. The light shone from him with his Mancunian gravel and the enlightened spark. Never laughed so long, so hard. Thank you, Dr. John Cooper Clarke. As we drove from the venue, a shadow slipped from the dark. We went to examine. We'd killed J. Cooper Clarke. We trod to the car, leaving poor JC dead. A gawkish cadaver, arms outspread, lying beneath where our tyres had sped. A statement has since been issued saying Clarke is alive, but we both know that's not true. We both know he died. I don't want you to say, you know, it's not about God, it's not about religion, it's just about the beauty of words. A single piece of verse from the Bible has always stuck in my mind. It is short, sweet, beautiful, and tucked tidily into a comprehensible box. I've used no form of reference for this other than my memory, so it is not a direct quote. Consider ye the lilies of the field, neither do they toil nor do they weave. But Solomon in all his glory was not clad as gloriously as one of these.
The one constant inspiration has always been my dad, with his quick to welcome, slow to anger, unassuming air. Poverty and tragedy played constantly and often, but never once a lame excuse for misery or low manners. Garden law and common sense, hard work and fair play, generous, polite and humorous, loving, wise and calm. How I live my life today, how my children grew to be the adults he inspired through everything he knew and shared with us, and showed to us how to face the world. Yes, the constant inspiration, the one who sparked it all.
My name's Bruce Glasser. I started writing poetry after doing a writing class with Julian Cohen at Blythe House Hospice. I went to the hospice for help with Parkinson's, and with Julian's guidance, he unleashed a torrent of writing. So I'd like to read you some of the work I've done, and taking in mind that some of it deals with the difficulties with disability. So my first poem is Courage. Courage. The alarm said 7:46. Time to wake, time to get up, get dressed, get on with the day. Why can't it be that simple? It used to be before my body became what I do not want it to be. Parkinson's, pain, stiffness, tremor, unnatural movements, painful contractions in the absence of a much-needed chemical. Dopamine, morphine, both potions for getting out of bed. Throw the blankets off, get up. I need courage, I need strength, I need to tame my mind of useless thoughts, difficult twisting thoughts that turn my days into a collection of mental circus acts to bash the nonsense. To not rise and just rest, it's no life. I will not let the disease bankrupt my all too precious days. Get up, put the pain in a cold, almost soothing place. Fight the muscles that twist and shake, and reduce my pace to a whimper. I am that man with an awkward walk who appears not to be in control. Stupid thoughts of drunken disorderly. I ignore the peering souls. Use my courage as a hammer of understanding. Courage do not weaken in the face of an illness that turns my body into chaos of distortion. Please do not fail me. I am an old man, and I need my courage. I need it more than the sun needs its burning light. I need, I want, I am. I want to write a poem today. I do not know what it was going to be about. I would just explore something that grabs my curious mind and makes it turn in meaningful ways. I want to write a poem today. Oh, the pain. Powerful cramps batter my hands. I look like Frankenstein when he tries to eat a bowl of slippery fish. I wanted to write a poem today. My tortured body is caught in a vice, trying to stop the nightmare of my bent, almost gnarled fingers. I am sorry, so very sorry, that I have lost what I could have given you. I just cannot stand the pain. These are some haikus. Unwell, being unwell is being like a wounded bird, unable to take flight. The rose, blossom thou, my frail rose, raising your head on high, take the sun to open. Travel, travel the night, my brave warrior, to see the sun rise in your hot blood. Endless, endless is my pain, sharp in its horror, infested night that sees no end. Father, I try my best to make my wrong words fall away into streams of love. Garden, grow my garden, grow, flowers and fruit to nourish, to satisfy our souls. Rock, rock, do not roll to a place that could do you harm, stay against the tide. Cosmic, stare up to the stars, knowing that you are so small in the way things are. Pool, in the pool of life, many things try to twist and turn to find a warm place. Heart, grow ever stronger, take life to its highest height to see the real dawn. Love is a prison that holds me in a grip of forever feeling love. Rain, pouring down from high, the rain knows our limits of rainbows in the sky. I regret that I did not give you as much as I could have. I regret what I can no longer give. I regret the human cost of what has stricken me. I regret the dreams lost in pain. I regret mistakes that have cost me my respect. I regret having written these awkward words. The lion, paused to strike every muscle like stone. The lion waits, his eyes sharp on his impending kill. The herd have picked up the lion's scent. Moving as one, they make strong paths into the razor grass, knowing its cutting edges will wound their skin, but keep them safe. The lion drops his head. Old man, he sat quietly, his head in his hands. Finally looking up, he could not contain a sudden surge of energy. I could just make out a rush of color to his wrinkled cheeks. It was as if his youth had returned with a mighty bang. His eyes now bright, reflecting the sun. He stood up, his legs no longer unsteady. A smile as broad can be spread across his face so quickly that it turned his head. His eyes caught mine. I smiled back, and he just nodded and walked away, as if his sudden flush of youth was just a pleasant accident. This is a poem about the end of the year, inspired by Julian as a sort of exercise, but it stuck with me, so I'm going to read it to you. By the end of the year, I will touch parts of my spirit that subs me to new horizons. I will see the light of energy and travel on the winds of my imagination. I will believe in the power of life to answer the mysteries that haunt me. I will never again distrust the logic of nature. I will suffer the unkindness of missing what I could have cherished. I will change what I cannot trust into a challenge to understand. I will not forgive the feelings that have hurt me. I will be terrified of losing the sense of wonder. I will not be able to change the fact that I'm challenged by Parkinson's. The worm slithered along the path in front of him, a glimpse of what it thought was paradise. Black and wet, smelling of rain, the worm pressed again and again into what it thought was warm, welcoming earth. Tarmac. Was it dropped by a bird, or did the worm just take a wrong turn, seduced by the wet blackness? My wife tried to pick the worm up with her hand in a cup position. The worm curled into a tortured knot, twisting and turning. A gentle tissue was a far greater success. Carefully dropped into an empty patch of our garden soil, the worm was quickly out of sight, burrowing deep into the rich, dark, fertile earth. The next day, a bird left a nasty mess on our windscreen.
We hope you have enjoyed our poets and their poetry, and we look forward to doing it again next year for you from a stage next time. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.